this is John, your host on the Prepared Mind channel. Welcome back to the weekly wrap-up. If you're over on YouTube and you haven't done it, subscribe now. And if you're over on YouTube and you wonder how to get information like this on a daily basis, go over to Patreon at the Prepared Mind over at Patreon. Now, this video is going to be quite unique or different than the other materials. And the daily material, as you guys know, consists of a lot about prepping, the need to prep, shit hitting the fan. But this video is going to take the understanding of the need to prepare for shit to hit the fan, or the apocalypse, Armageddon. Right? We're going to take it to a different level of understanding, because I'm going to sit down and lay out the information that I've acquired, information that's been fed to me, information from across the spectrum. And a lot of this you're going to already know. You're already going to understand it because you've heard it. But a lot of this, the way it all meshes together, came about because of the activities of this week. Many channels, right, they blew their wad on their yearly wrap-up. I wanted to see what Trump was going to do week one, and then do a wrap-up video that brings all the elements of what's happening in the world together now. And I wanted to do it for everybody because it is very critical to see the interlocking motions and movements and why we're here today instead of somebody somewhere else because of somebody else. But it's also important that because of what has happened this week, I also see a chance that we can avoid the absolute worst of shit hitting the fan. It may not be as bad if things continue to go the way they're playing out. So let's get into that information now. To truly understand the situation we face, the threat of shit hitting the fan, why we're at where we're at today in 2018, we need to take a look back. Not just 1 week, but to see Trump and his big move. We need to compare it to 2017. In fact, we need to go back a little further into 2016 to the election of the last president, right? The last presidential election. So let's take a look at some election history, if you will, and then what happened after that. So on Trump's side, we had control mechanisms. Hillary, the Democrats, the cabal, the bad guys in this situation. And I truly think they are bad people. They wanted to control Donald Trump. They had things they had set up, tripping hazards. They wanted to ruin the election for Trump. And how did they do that? Well, they start with the big release. When it looked like Trump wasn't just going to fold and go away, they came out with the, Trump's own words. He used the words, grabbed her by the pussy. They used that, and they thought that they were going to get so much mileage out of that they would just lose the election right there. And that didn't seem to do it. What else did the Hillary campaign bring out during the election to discredit, to make Trump seem immoral and a poor leader? Well, the Russia sex scandal that occurred during business. They tried saying that Trump was involved in a sex scandal over in Russia. And the Hillary campaign tried to control the way you and I think, the public, by releasing this information during the election. As we all know, Trump won the election. That failed. Shortly thereafter, the post-election attempts to control Trump, to get him to back off, to get you and I not to trust what's going on, to introduce the idea of impeachment. They brought these things up. They said there was Russia collusion with the Trump campaign during the election, and because of that, it was an illegitimate election. As in, we needed to have another election, we needed to throw Trump out, there needed to be instant impeachment. They pushed on everything. They floated trial balloons everywhere. What else did they throw up in the air? What other shit did they throw in the fan, the Hillary campaign? Russia commercials. They tried saying Russia paid for political commercials here in America. And RT, Russian television, is Russian, and they were pro-Trump, so that means there must have been collusion, right? And commercials. So therefore, Trump is not a legitimate president. Trump is Putin's puppet. They were leaving all of these ideas out there for us to chew on and think and digest, and they couldn't get the traction they needed. Trump kept going. The next thing they came up with was Russian interference, right? The Russians literally interfered in our election by messing with machines, that is, election tabulating machines, in every way possible that Russia could, over the ocean, interfere. They did. They interfered with the whole election. Now, all of this was an attempt to control Trump, to shame Trump, to make Trump ineffective. What they didn't realize is Trump doesn't care. It's amazing what happens when the Republican in office doesn't care what's being said about him, because what does he say? It's just not true. How did he respond? This is fake news. Don't buy it, America. And he pressed on without giving them credibility by apologizing and backpedaling and basically being a political coward. Now, what you and I have been treated to for decades is political cowardice by Republicans who back down at every step at the merest, slightest hint of an accusation coming from the Democrat side. So, they've tried controlling Trump. That's the history of the election before and post. Let's take a look at what Trump was doing to Hillary. So again, we can understand where we're at in 2018, because we're going to look at the election in 2017. So Hillary was put on notice. That's right. Trump put her on notice during the election. Wienergate was started. It got started during the election. The cell phones, the email security, the servers at her house. This information came out. Trump put her in, he said, I'll put you in prison. If I'm president, right, you'll be in jail, basically is what he said. If that's not a verbatim quote, right? He put her on notice. I'm coming for you, lady. Right? And he did not speak kindly to her. In fact, a lot of people would say he used a sexist or a bigoted or a misogynist attitude. He talked down to Hillary as a woman. No, he talked down to Hillary as a criminal. And I think you and I and America got it. Right? If it had been a man up there, Bill Clinton, who had done everything Hillary had, it wouldn't have mattered that Hillary was a woman, right? He would have gone after a man the same way. He is Donald Trump. He doesn't seem to give a shit about the pettiness and the petty games. So post-election, what did we discover? Uranium One, corruption with Hillary Clinton, which also pointed to the State Department and the White House and Mueller and Comey and Loretta Lynch. Everyone got lumped into this because of their exposure to each other, their collusion with each other, their covering for each other over on the Democrat side. Post-election, Obama wiretapping was exposed. Trump said this was wiretapping and it was illegal. The Democrats denied it. And in time, information has been released through intentional White House leaks, QAnon and others, that Fusion, right, the Trump dossier, right, they were lies about Trump and Russia. They're lies that were designed to control Trump, and he's now turned it around. Everything they've tried, they've turned around to show that Hillary is the one who needs to be examined. Hillary is the criminal. Trump is the president. Hillary's the criminal. Right? So the fusion, the wiretapping, implicates the Obama administration and Hillary and Comey and Loretta Lynch and Huma Abedin. Right? And then to go further, we've now exposed or been exposed to the human rights corruption, which ties Podesta, Huma, Obama, Comey, etc. It further ties them all together in this web of deceit and corruption. that there's an organization that is huge, it is powerful, it has been existing for decades. It is a cartel of power here in the United States of America that Hillary is at the front of because she was running against Trump in this election. It is the Bush cartel. And Clinton is a front face. She's front office for it. Obama really didn't have anything to do with anything. It turns out Obama is a stooge of. He's a pretty face and a pretty voice for everyone to hear, and everyone loved him and voted for him, even though everything he did was against our better interests. Another way to look at the cartel is they are globalists. Globalists. They are not nationalists. They are not pro-United States of America. They are internationalists. They're pro-corporate self-interest. So, what we've been treated to is we want to drain the swamp. It takes time. It takes strategy. But Trump said, drain the swamp. What has stopped him from just going and arresting people is it takes time and it takes a strategy. Because what were we promised and what are we seeing the threat of? Absolute scorched earth. And I talked about this a year ago during the elections. I said, if Trump goes after Hillary, she's going to execute a scorched earth policy and burn everybody to the ground. And I said it could go so far as economic collapse, collapsing the economy and the financial system. It could go so far as causing terror actions, as well as starting a war to hide themselves and what they're doing. Basically, we are under scorched earth threats and extortion, military, economic, political, right? It is incredibly complex. So when people said, it's been a month, why hasn't Trump arrested people? It's been a month, why isn't the swamp drained? The reason is the complexity of the problem. If Trump just went and arrested everybody, wow, right? We would have the government collapse because they would all roll over on each other. We wouldn't understand the economic mess we're in today. It's all being slowly unraveled to you and I, the American people, through leaks like QAnon, who I don't talk about a whole lot, I just watch and listen to, as well as the other leakers that come out. But we're slowly being introduced to what? Pizzagate, which is Podesta and the human rights violations, the woman and child sex trafficking that's going on under this cabal. We're slowly being explained what is going on with this diplomacy issue over here and what's the solution. And Trump has literally rope-a-doped everyone, including me. I thought, hey, we're going to war, right? And I've been told that. The military, and I put it down here, military, economic, political complex. I put military first because this is a big part of scorched earth, is the threat of military action. That is, a terror action could occur over in Korea, South Korea, have it blamed on the North and start a war. It wouldn't take much. As I've explained, all it took was the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand and it started World War I. Trump has been talking everyone back from the brink. He's exercised military might and power and showed that we could just go to war, but he hasn't. And as of this week, again, this is the weekly wrap-up, but as of this week, North Korea and South Korea are engaging in talks about the Olympics. Does that mean that there's no chance of war? Absolutely not. Does it mean that this could get talked back from the precipice? Yes, it does. It is possible that war can be averted without military action, which is what the Hillary side of the fence loves to do, a la Ukraine, Syria, right? Those are huge. That was the Obama administration over there. Drone bombing the shit out of everyone. And Saudi Arabia going after Yemen was started during the Obama administration. I'm sure it got the blessing. Okay? So this is the history. This is the preliminary look at why we're at where we're at this week. Week 1 of 2018. I'm going to redraw the board of truth here, and we're going to go to the next look at what the heck is happening. Okay, we're on to the second board of truth edition here. So here we are, week 1, weekly wrap-up, 2018. Everything that's happening is reading like a Tom Clancy book, a spy novel. Only you couldn't write this, what's happened in our world, and have it be as believable as the truth is now being presented to us. We are now starting to be exposed to the truth. People like Cliff High, who does information, data mining off of the internet to see what is being talked about. You see, because all of this is so complex, you can't just say it in one sentence. There is so much information about what is happening that to talk about any one subject could take you hours. I know I'm trying to condense everything down here for one video to discuss it. And I could take any one of these lines off of anything and talk about them presumably for hours. But I don't have that kind of time. It's a weekly wrap-up. But what we've got here is a Tom Clancy book, right? We're getting educational leaks, and I like to call them educational because the world is being taught what is going on. Hillary hasn't been able to say something and scurry under a rock. Right? Debbie Wasserman Schultz, just because she's disappeared from the limelight, doesn't mean she's going to get out of being held responsible. Right? So people like QAnon and others, information's coming out. They're educating everybody. I get my information from some odd sources. I get text messages, mysterious text messages in the middle of the night. Right? Get this information. Go find this information. Put it together. What do you think of this? I get things like that, and it wakes me up for hours at a time. And I am learning about this with you. Right? We all are getting this information from one source or another. But it's not just one source. It's not just QAnon. Right? It's not just WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. It's coming from everywhere. Multiple sources for any one event that's occurring. And that tells us that there's a lot more out there, and they're corroborating each other. So, Trump, who is he? Who is this guy? He's this character in the Tom Clancy novel about reality. Is he capable of doing this? Is Trump the man? Did we know it 20 years ago? 30 years ago? 40 years ago? Did we know that he'd be the guy that would expose the cabal, the evil people, the powers that be for what they are? Did we ever think that a guy like Trump would be the one who comes out and says, hey, by the way, this is what's going on, and these are the people you need to look at and understand? Well, I never would have picked Trump for this novel of reality, but Trump is the man in the White House. And he is playing the game marvelously. Is he perfect? No. And you can't expect him to be. And I don't think Clancy would write him that way either. But what Trump has done is he's demonstrated his ability to put out his own misinformation to keep the Democrats busy while he's revealing something else to us. They keep threatening him and he ignores them and does his own thing. And we've gotten to this point now, right? He has, right? Wall Street crash. I've been saying for years, many have, we're going to have a crash. It has to come down. Even Trump, during the election, was saying, hey, it's a big giant bubble. What did he do? He got in office and he blew the bubble bigger. Is that wise? I don't think so. But what has it done? I said when Wall Street crashes, Europe's going to crash, Japan's going to crash, the world will crash, shit hits the fan. He's stalled it, right? And America, because of stalling that, because we're still in business, America's been able to focus on more than their own misery, more than the shit hitting the fan. They've been able to focus on that. America's slowly waking up, piece by gradual piece. Day by day, week by week, month by month, we've gotten through 1 year of Trump. World War stalled. Stalled? Right? It looked like we were going to get in world war with Ukraine as the starting point. That started with the Obama administration. Syria, same story. North Korea, World War III. It looks like it. Shit hitting the fan. Looks like it. It's been stalled so far. And as I said just a few minutes ago, North Korea is now talking with South Korea without us being there, making them hold hands and skip, right, and share daisies and a soda pop. So Trump has managed to do this. He's stalling shit hitting the fan. I can't say that I'm against it because I don't want it to hit the fan, but it seems like an inevitability because of the way our history has been and the way we've been going down that road. Do I think we can turn around and come back? No, I don't, but I'll get to that at the end. The concept of globalism, which started way back, but it became prominent during the 92 election, or 91 election, which was the Bush-Clinton-Perot fiasco, where Perot said, we're going to have a giant sucking sound as our jobs and money left. Well, the little bastard was right. Right? The jobs have left. The money's left. Trump is bringing it back. He's kind of turning globalism around a little bit. Now, it's true that we have a complete and total world economy. That is, everyone relies on each other. We know who has what resources. And this person makes that, and that person buys this, and this person has oil. If one sector falls apart, the whole thing falls apart. But the part about globalism that we don't like is that it enriches the corporations. Certain governments control everything, and the rest of us get fucked. Right? That's not good for us as the people, as the sovereign. Globalism bad. Trump is kind of returning us to this idea of make America great again. Did he tell the Chinese, you fucking bunch of Chinese people, you suck? No, he's saying, hey, you guys make yourself great over in the UK. You do your nationalist thing with Brexit and make yourself great. Russia's already standing there going, yeah, right there. They're already doing their great thing. Everyone, make yourselves great. But the U.S. is not for sale anymore. Right? So this idea of globalism, he's stalled it. Right? Because nobody wins with a total collapse. Right? But we've got some debt issues, and we'll talk about that some more as well. And the world reserve currency, it's probably going to move away from the U.S. There's just been too many shenanigans over here for too long. Looks like that's moving away. That'll be another video another day. But a big one here, that Trump is stalling. It's not just globalism for business, it's social fascism. It is 100+ years in the making and moving. It is financed by bankers. And it's a political philosophy to benefit the few. Because it is the government doing things in the name of the people, but benefiting corporations, and corporations are owned by people. Okay? So how do we know social fascism's been around? Well, it was born in the 1920s, when Hitler started to come to power. But let's just go and look at Franklin Delano Roosevelt. There was an assassination attempt. Many political figures and financial figures in the U.S. were discovered. FDR let them off, and I don't understand why for the life of me. Marine Corps General Smedley Butler was looked at to lead the military coup against FDR. He turned it around, kind of like Trump is doing, did a rope-a-dope and exposed them. But FDR let him off. There was a lot of big blackmail going on. And I think it's because FDR was compromised that they were able to keep him in line, whereas Trump appears to not be compromised. The facts of the matter speak. They're not controlling him. He's not going away. He's not doing what they want. He's continuing to push to gain information, to create indictments, to get people to roll over. It's all happening in the background, and we've talked about that. How if we're being shown this much, in reality, there's this much going on. Huge amounts. Okay. So, the social fascists, through their economic power and influence in the banking industry, they funded Hitler. One of the primary banks was the Union Trust Bank in New York, which was run by none other than Prescott Bush, father of George H.W. Bush, grandfather to George W. Bush. And if you don't know this, it's a shocker. It's a shocker. Do your research. I'll see if I can't put a link down below for a video. It's about a 3-4 hour video that talks about and gets into great detail this stream of power, the stream of fascist consciousness, how it's come down to us today. All right? So social fascism, it did not die. The Nazi Party did not die in World War II. JFK, the military-industrial complex killed him. That was spoken of by Ike, President Eisenhower, who managed to avoid falling into trouble with them. But JFK went up against them, and he was assassinated for it. I've talked about Trump. Everyone is talking about the coup d'etat that is being attempted in Washington against Trump, which is against you and me, the American people. Right? Yeah, this is the weekly wrap-up for week 1. Right? Bush, that is George H.W., the father of George W., was in the CIA in the 60s. In the 70s, he was the head of the CIA. His power, the power through the Bush family, has been around from the very beginning, starting with Prescott, all the way up to present day. The Clintons are from Arkansas, Mena, Arkansas, where the drugs were flown in, the cocaine. Flown right into Bill's backyard. Bill has always been, and Hillary have always been, puppets, stooges of the Bushes. All right, so I want to move to the next step. What is going on right now? We're looking at economic collapse. World debt. The U.S. has 30% of the world's debt. China has 10%. I wrote 15, that should be 10. They've got 1/3 of what America has. It's huge. But in America, what have we got? Nothing. It's just gone. That money's gone. But if Trump arrests the super wealthy, the bad guys, the Clintons, the Bushes, whoever has got their fingers where they ought not be, and he did this with his corruption executive order that I discussed in video from December 21st. Go to whitehouse.gov, look up executive orders. The one done on the 21st has to do with financial and human rights corruption. He's going to block. He's going to recover that. That's the idea. He's put it out there. That might help us with our debt situation. That might help not give us the SHTF we all fear and maybe give us something else. But China, what's their debt done? It's created cities. It's built factories. It's built infrastructure. Yeah, they have a lot of debt at 10% of the world's overall debt. But at the same time, they've got something to show for it. Right? So gold equals money. Oil equals energy. And people equals work getting done. We need all these things so that we can get out of the mess we're in. And I don't think we're going to get out of it. But you can see what Trump is trying to do by putting Hillary, crooked Hillary, in jail. By pointing to the Justice Department, the State Department, other branches of government and bureaucracy and say, these are the bad guys. And then look at the financial industry, and he should be able to point to the bad guys. And he has no problem keeping bad guys around him. He's a shark swimming amongst other sharks. But he hasn't gone down. It's very fascinating. Trump must expose this corruption. And he has to do it in such a way as to avoid the shock. Right? This is the trick. This is the big move. He's got to do all of this. Financial, military, political, on a global scale. He's got to expose it all, arrest the bad guys, and not shock the system so bad that it just burns down, explodes in a nuclear inferno. He needs to not have that shock happen. And that's why he's taken a year so far just to get where he's at. He's stayed off economic collapse, war, political attacks, social ridiculousness. He's managed to do all that. This great bumbling orange idiot is the Democrats try and create this image of him for us, and no one's buying it because he just is rough around the edges as he can be. He just keeps on doing what he's doing, and he's pushing in this direction. He's pushing to expose the corruption on every level. Okay, fascism needs war. It needs terror to control us. And I talked about how Prescott Bush was the start of this. Start in such a scale that we can track it back there and we can see it. Okay, Trump, right, he's got to deal with this corruption, the political corruption, financial corruption, business corruption, and the banking corruption. How is it that these fascists have gotten where they're at? How do they do it? It's through corruption, through controlling people. Controlling us, the people of the country, through terrorism, using Al-Qaeda and ISIS. We're terrorized. We're scared to death. We want to go get the bad guys, but it always seems like we go to get the bad guys in a war zone that benefits the fascists, the bankers, the multi-billionaire, trillionaire types. And then they never catch the terrorists. They just go to each country and knock them over. From Iraq, they'd like Iran. They can't get it. Syria, Ukraine, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Ukraine, Saudi Arabia, Yemen. It's all about energy and oil. As far as the money system, the financial, it's gold and money. They want to control the money because he who has the gold or the money makes the rules, right? And it controls the people. How else are they controlling us? Through drugs, the drug trade. This thing happened in the 80s and under George H.W. Bush's president, the war on drugs. Well, if that section of the CIA through the Bush cartel was bringing drugs, cocaine, up to Mena, Arkansas for distribution and sale in the United States to raise money to help fund this machine of filth, how could he say cocaine's bad? Well, he went down into Colombia and he wanted to get rid of all the cartels that wanted to be privateers and sell their own drugs. Well, Bush wanted to make sure any ounce of cocaine that was sold in the U.S. or distributed worldwide was sold through his network. What are we seeing in Afghanistan today? George W. Bush went there. We saw Marine Corps troops. We saw U.S. Army soldiers guarding poppy fields, opium poppies, which make opiates, drugs. We're controlled. We the people, and people that are compromised, people that are blackmailed in positions of power. They're compromised because of drugs and also sex. They use blackmail through sex. This has been coming out for the last year with these sex scandals. And we're starting to see and hear about more and more of it. And it is so pervasive and so perverted that it even involves the use of children. Ritual abuse of children. It is covered by every alternative news channel that's worth its salt. They will talk about it from a religious perspective. They'll talk about it from a political perspective. They'll talk about it from a financial perspective. Everyone has their own angle they're covering it. And it is getting and continuing to have and hold traction. Right? This is how they control us. And this is what Trump must expose. And when it comes to the bottom line on the Prepared Mind channel, what are we talking about? What have we talked about on here for 4+ years now? Shit hitting the fan. Your need to get food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, a means of self-defense, building a plan. All of that is because of all of this shit. All of this shit that I've talked about for over half an hour now has to do with why we need to prepare. This isn't just a little game. This is the game. This is the big game. This is the big enchilada. This is for everything. And Trump is the one. Who is he? Is he capable? Can he stop shit from hitting the fan? Well, if we switch from the dollar as the world reserve currency, the petrodollar, over to the yuan, the Chinese renminbi, I can never say that word, we're going to have political turmoil. We're going to have economic turmoil, financial turmoil, right? That's shit, it's the fan. But is it going to be Captain Caveman, Mad Max, world-ending stuff? Or could we see, and this is where my optimism lies, could we see a shit, it's the fan light? Yeah, we're all going to have to deal with the debt, the corruption, the exposure of all of this evil. It's going to shock and rock our world. But Trump is doing his best to slowly get it out, to slowly educate us with these leaks. Slowly expose it, acclimate us to what's coming. It's happening. It has to happen. It's either going to crash and fall and explode into shit, it's the fan, or you can expose the corruption, expose the problem people, arrest them and let the world know, yeah, there's something better than evil that can exist. And even though we're going to have shit, it's the fan light, right, we're still going to have shit hitting the fan. And we're going to have to deal with how the news system comes into play. This is why I saved this video for this week and not back at the end of 2017. Because I wanted to show how out the gate in 2018, this week, big things were going to happen right off the bat. And it's going to further show that Trump is in charge of what is happening. And I mean, I can't help but I have to root and hope for the guy. Because the alternative is absolute and total horror shock and the end of the world as we know it. I don't want that type of Armageddon situation. As it is, we could end up with shit, it's the fan light, which still means major interruptions in power or fuel, food, operating government, civility amongst people in a social setting, right? That means fucking riots, looting. We could still get that even in a shit, it's the fan light, and we could have it for months at a time. So you need to be prepared with food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, all of those things. You need a plan to deal with your geography, that is the area around you. You need a plan to deal with the socioeconomic conditions in your area. Are you urban, suburban? Are you rural? What's the population base? You need an understanding of all of that. But you start with the simple things: food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. All of this that I've talked about lets you know why you need to do all of those things. This information is invaluable to reinforce and to give you the impetus, the encouragement, right, to do it, to get prepared. You know, I hope like hell that this book, this Tom Clancy novel starring Donald J. Trump, turns out with a light shit hits the fan and a reorganization of the world political, military, economic structure that has nation states in it, like the United States of America, Great Britain, Russia, China, that still exist with their national identity and their characteristics that make them individually great. Because I don't want globalism, and I don't want global fascism. I don't want a technocracy that uses terror, drugs to control us, that uses death, that uses, and Jack, I know it's been a long time, you've been telling me, chemtrails, weather engineering, all of this other incredible technology, the terror of military might, the terror of robot soldiers and robot drones and other things that can control us and scare us. That's what global fascism wants. It wants to control everyone and everything and own everything. It wants to take the power from the people for itself. It is evil. That is the beast that is out there. And it looks like Donald J. Trump is the one who is working with other world leaders, like Putin, like Xi Jinping, the president of China, working with them somehow, magically, to keep the system from collapsing by stalling it, and working towards the exposure of the corruption and the exposure of those who are corrupt at the top. And if he can do it right, he can bring them all down. In the face of their threats of total scorched earth, not only psychologically, but in reality with war, with nuclear war. I've talked about how there is power at the top. And it's not just evil power. There's good and bad, and they oppose each other. They oppose each other at the top in politics, at the top in the military, at the Pentagon. There's good guys and bad guys. There are very powerful, wealthy people who want to fix this mess. Yeah, they're super wealthy and they're not bad. They're trying to fight the bad guys that are trying to take over the system. Right? Because it takes people to do the work. So there are some wealthy people who believe you treat people well, they work well, everyone wins. Whether you're wealthy or poor or somewhere in the middle, as long as everyone's working to their level, they're good. Right? We've got that. And then there's powers that you and I can't see. But we can just feel their presence because of what's going on. Money, wealth, power, above and beyond the Pentagon or the White House or the Vatican or the Kremlin. This is huge. This is this week's wrap-up. This is where we're going in 2018. Week 1, out the gate, right? So, again, I'm going to tell you, subscribe here, but go to Patreon because we're going to be talking more about these things all year long as it develops. Whether we're talking about the money or the military or the politics, I'll get into it, and I want to do more. I want to do a lot more with this, but it takes you guys to support me. And I'm getting that support over on Patreon, and that is terrific. So thank you, everyone over there. It's helping me be able to come and do this because we've got a bunch of people behind me that you can't see that are behind the scenes pushing buttons and working to bring more of this information out. And it's not just me that's bringing it out. It's coming out everywhere. Right? Educational leaks. This is happening right now. This is reality. It's not a fictional novel. This is reality. It's your reality. And at the end of the book, at the end of the novel, we're going to have some form of shit hitting the fan. You need to be prepared. Chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Godspeed to all. I'll talk to you soon. Playtime is over. Get your Prepared Mind merchandise at thepreparedmind.club. Help keep free speech free and spread the word about the need to prep.